refreshed the banking app for the third time that morning. The balance stared back at me, $0. My coffee went cold in my hand as I sat frozen in my office chair. This couldn't be right. Our business account held over $200,000 yesterday. I checked the transaction history with trembling fingers. One withdrawal, authorized by Calla Morgan. That was my name, but I never authorized anything. The door swung open without a knock. Trent walked in, his usual confident stride replaced with something darker. He was smirking, actually smirking. My business partner of 5 years stood in my doorway like he owned the place, which apparently he now did. "Morning, Calla," he said casually, dropping into the chair across from my desk. "Sleep well." My throat felt tight. "Trent, what happened to our account? Everything's gone." He leaned back, crossing his arms. "You signed the transfer papers, remember? Last week. The tax paperwork I sent over." My stomach dropped. The PDF he'd emailed. The one I'd signed digitally without reading carefully because I trusted him. Because we were partners. Because we'd built Apex Marketing Solutions together from nothing. "That wasn't tax paperwork," I whispered. His smile widened. "No, it wasn't." I barely remembered leaving my office. My assistant's concerned face blurred past as I stumbled toward the elevator. My hands shook so badly I could barely press the button. When the doors closed, I collapsed against the wall. 5 years. 5 years of 16-hour days, sacrificed weekends, and every penny of my savings poured into our company. Gone. Transferred to Trent's name because I'd trusted him with a signature. Back at my apartment, I tore through my laptop searching for that email. Found it. Downloaded the PDF. It wasn't tax paperwork at all. It was a complete transfer of ownership. Every asset, every account, every piece of intellectual property we developed together. All signed over to Trent Harrison, sole proprietor. My signature sat perfectly at the bottom, digitally rendered from the authorization I'd given. My phone rang. Harper Cole, our lawyer. Relief flooded through me as I answered. "Harper, thank God. Something terrible has happened. Trent forged documents and—" "Calla, slow down." His voice was calm, too calm, like he'd been expecting my call. "Let's not throw around words like forged just yet. Why don't you come by my office tomorrow and we'll discuss this quietly?" Something in his tone made my skin crawl. The way he said, quietly, felt like a threat wrapped in professional courtesy. Harper's office felt different the next morning. The leather chairs seemed harder, the mahogany desk more imposing. He smiled at me the way doctors smile when delivering bad news. Professional. Distant. Nothing like the man who'd been at our company barbecues, who'd celebrated our first major client with champagne. "Now, Calla, I've reviewed the situation," he said, fingers steepled. "These things happen in partnerships. Misunderstandings about asset division. We can handle this privately without litigation. Much cleaner for everyone involved." "Misunderstanding," my voice cracked. "He stole my company, Harper, everything I built." "According to the documentation, you signed." "I signed what I thought was tax paperwork." He lied. Harper's expression didn't change. "That will be difficult to prove. Digital signatures are legally binding. Courts see them as informed consent. Taking this to trial would be expensive, time-consuming, and frankly, your word against his." My hands clenched in my lap. "You're my lawyer, our lawyer. You're supposed to help me." "I am helping you," he said smoothly. "I'm advising you to accept the situation and negotiate a reasonable severance package. Trent has expressed willingness to offer $50,000 for your exit." $50,000 for a company worth millions. "Whose side are you on, Harper?" His pause told me everything I needed to know. I found Trent in the parking garage that evening, leaning against his new Tesla. When had he bought a Tesla? Last month he'd been driving a Honda. My mind raced, connecting dots I should have seen earlier. The expensive watch, the designer suits, money flowing from somewhere while our joint accounts remained mysteriously tight. "Calla," he didn't look surprised to see me. "Come to accept reality." "How long have you been planning this?" He lit a cigarette, blowing smoke toward the concrete ceiling. "Business isn't friendship, Calla. You were always too soft for this industry. Too trusting. Someone was going to take advantage eventually. I just got there first. My nails dug into my palms. I made you. You were nobody when we started. I brought in every major client we have. Had, he corrected. And actually, those clients, they're staying with me, already signed new contracts. Turns out when given a choice between you and the company, they chose the company, which is mine now. I'll sue you. I'll expose what you did. Trent flicked ash onto the ground. With what money? Your accounts are empty, remember? And good luck finding a lawyer willing to go against Harper Cole's firm. He's very well connected. He pushed off his car, moving closer. But here's something interesting. The buyer who's interested in acquiring Apex, someone you know very well. Monday morning, my keycard wouldn't work. I swiped it 3 times at the building entrance before the security guard approached, looking uncomfortable. Ms. Morgan, I'm sorry, but your access has been revoked. I have instructions. Instructions from whom? Mr. Harrison. He said you'd be by to collect your personal items, there at the front desk. A cardboard box. My diplomas, photos, the coffee mug my mom gave me when we launched. 5 years reduced to one small box. Employees I'd hired avoided eye contact as I walked through the lobby. Some looked sympathetic. Others whispered behind cupped hands. Betrayal apparently made good gossip. My phone buzzed in the parking lot. Email from Harper. Subject line, confidentiality agreement. I opened it with shaking hands. A non-disclosure agreement. 10 pages of legal language that basically said I couldn't talk about what happened, couldn't disparage Trent or the company, couldn't pursue legal action. In exchange, he'd release the $50,000 severance. My finger hovered over the delete button. Then I saw the CC line. Trent Harrison. Of course Harper had copied him. They were working together. The lawyer I'd trusted, the partner I'd built a company with, both circling like vultures. I forwarded the email to myself at 3 different addresses and saved the attachment 6 different ways. For 3 days, I read that NDA obsessively. Midnight oil burned as I dissected every clause, every subsection. My law school roommate, Fiona, had tried teaching me contract basics years ago. I'd been a terrible student then. Now, desperation made me focused. Page 7, buried in dense legal language, I found it. An indemnity clause. By signing, I wouldn't just be agreeing to stay quiet. I'd be accepting full liability for any irregularities in company finances during my tenure. Meaning if any of Trent's creative accounting came to light, it would fall on me. I'd be the one facing fraud charges, not him. This wasn't a severance agreement. It was a trap. My hands trembled as I called Harper's office, putting my phone on speaker mode. My tablet sat ready, recording app open. Calla, have you reconsidered the NDA? Harper's voice filled my small apartment. I have some questions about the indemnity clause. Standard language, nothing to worry about. It says I accept responsibility for financial irregularities. What irregularities? A pause. Just protective language for Mr. Harrison. You understand, he needs assurance that past decisions won't come back to affect the company's reputation. Past decisions I made. Once she signs, Harper said, and I could hear him turning away from the phone, voice slightly muffled. She can't challenge it. The clause is ironclad. He wasn't talking to me. Someone else was in his office. I ended the call and immediately saved the recording. 1 month of silence. 1 month of watching Trent parade around on social media, posting photos from the office I'd decorated, announcing new clients I'd cultivated, talking about his vision for Apex marketing solutions. My phone exploded with messages from industry contacts. What happened? Are you okay? Is it true you left the company? I didn't respond, didn't post, didn't engage, didn't defend myself. Let them think I'd broken down, given up, disappeared in shame. While Trent celebrated his victory publicly, I worked privately. Every night until 3 a.m, researching Harper Cole's legal history. Public records were limited, but they told a story. 3 settled lawsuits in 5 years, all against former business owners, all represented by Harper initially, all settled out of court with NDAs attached. The pattern was unmistakable. This wasn't Trent's original idea. Harper had a system. Find ambitious partners, gain their trust as their attorney, then help the more ruthless one eliminate the other. Split the profits. Move on to the next victim. On day 32, I found what I needed. A name buried in an archived news article from 4 years ago. Vanessa Park, owner of Park Digital Designs. Partnership dissolved under mysterious circumstances. Her partner took control. Harper Cole represented both parties initially. The article mentioned a settlement, sealed records. I found Vanessa on social media. Sent a private message, not expecting a response. She called me within an hour. We met at a coffee shop in a neighborhood neither of us frequented. Vanessa looked older than her photos, gray threading through her dark hair. Her hands shook slightly as she gripped her coffee cup. "I signed the NDA," she said immediately. "I can't talk about specifics, but when I saw your message, the names Trent and Harper together, I had to warn you. The same thing happened to you." It wasn't a question. She nodded, eyes filling with tears. Partnership agreement. He was my business partner for 7 years. Then Harper started representing us both, said it was more efficient, cost-effective. 6 months later, I signed paperwork I thought was for a business loan. It transferred everything to my partner. When I tried to fight it, Harper had documentation showing I'd agreed to everything. The same indemnity clause. I would have been liable for tax fraud if I pursued it. But you sued anyway. For 2 weeks, then they showed me what they'd fabricated. Emails I never sent, transactions I never authorized, all with my digital signature. My lawyer said fighting it would bankrupt me and possibly send me to prison. So I settled. Took the $50,000 and signed away my right to ever speak about it. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You're recording this, aren't you?" I nodded. She stood up. "Good. Someone needs to stop him." Finding sealed settlements was nearly impossible. Court records were restricted, NDAs prevented victims from talking, and Harper's firm had connections throughout the legal system. But Vanessa's courage gave me something valuable, a pattern to search for. I started with business dissolution cases handled by Harper's firm. Cross-referenced them with sudden ownership transfers. Found 14 cases in 8 years that matched the pattern. 14 people, 14 lives disrupted, 14 companies stolen. Some victims had disappeared from the business world entirely. Others had rebuilt smaller ventures, always looking over their shoulders. One had moved across the country. The pattern was clear, but proving it required more than circumstantial evidence. I needed someone willing to testify, documentation that hadn't been destroyed, something concrete that could crack Harper's system. That's when I found Liam Porter's name. Young attorney, only 3 years out of law school. He'd filed a motion challenging one of Harper's settlements last year. Lost, but the attempt showed courage. More importantly, his firm's website listed corporate fraud as a specialty. I called his office, got voicemail, left a detailed message explaining everything, didn't expect a call back. He called back in 20 minutes. "Ms. Morgan, I've been waiting for someone like you for 2 years. How soon can you get to my office?" Liam Porter's office was nothing like Harper's polished mahogany and leather setup. Cramped space above a coffee shop, files stacked everywhere, an ancient desktop computer humming loudly. But his eyes were sharp as I laid out everything. The forged documents, Harper's conspiracy, the recording, Vanessa's testimony, the pattern of sealed settlements. He listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, he sat back in his creaky chair. "This is bigger than you realize. Harper Cole's firm handles corporate law for half the major businesses in the city. He's untouchable through conventional means, but you've found his weakness." "Which is?" "Arrogance. He's been doing this so long he's gotten sloppy. That recording where he admits the clause is ironclad, that's consciousness of guilt. The pattern of settlements establishes systematic fraud, and Trent's public celebration shows premeditation." Liam pulled out a legal pad. "But we can't go at them head-on. They'll bury you in motions, delays, legal fees. We need them to feel safe. Let them think they've won completely." "How?" "You're going to fold. Publicly. Make them comfortable. Then we're going to use the one thing Harper missed in his own contract." He pulled out my original partnership agreement with Trent, started highlighting sections. Section 12, subsection C. In the event of fraudulent transfer of assets, all holdings revert to the original founding member. That's you, Calla. The LinkedIn post went live Monday morning. I drafted it a dozen times, making sure the tone was perfect. Defeated but gracious. Broken but professional. After much reflection, I've decided to step away from Apex Marketing Solutions to focus on personal growth and new directions. Building this company has been the honor of my life, but sometimes knowing when to let go is the greatest wisdom. Grateful for the journey and everyone who was part of it. Comments poured in within minutes. Sympathetic messages from people who didn't know the real story. Industry contacts offering coffee meetings and networking opportunities. And then, exactly as Liam predicted, Trent's comment appeared. Proud of you for knowing when to quit, Calla. Sometimes the best thing we can do is recognize our limitations and step aside for those with the vision to lead. Wishing you the best in your future endeavors. My hands clenched reading it, the condescension, the implied inadequacy, but I forced myself to like his comment, respond with a simple thank you for everything. Liam called an hour later. Perfect. He's going to get comfortable now. Meanwhile, I've filed a fraud motion with the court. Use the clause from your original partnership agreement. Hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. Will they know? They'll get notification, but Harper will dismiss it as nuisance litigation. He won't realize this one's different until it's too late. 3 weeks felt like 3 years. Every day, I maintained my defeated persona, posted occasionally about self-care and new beginnings, ignored messages asking about Apex, let my social media presence suggest someone who'd completely moved on. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Liam was building our case methodically. He'd found 2 more victims willing to testify confidentially, subpoenaed Harper's firm for records on all settlement cases from the past decade, filed motions requiring Trent to produce financial documentation for Apex's accounts. Each action was carefully calculated to seem routine until the hearing, when everything would come together. Late one night, unable to sleep, I pulled out the original partnership contract again. Read through every page, every clause, remembering the excitement of starting something new. The hope, the belief that hard work and integrity would be enough. How naive I'd been. But that naivety had saved me. Because I'd insisted on protections, had read every word, had demanded that fraud clause specifically after hearing horror stories from other entrepreneurs. Section 12, subsection C had seemed like paranoid overkill at the time. Trent had even joked about it. Who would be stupid enough to commit fraud against their own partner? We'd laughed, signed, built something real together. Now that clause was my weapon, the thing Harper had missed in his arrogance, because he'd focused on the recent documents, never reviewing the original partnership agreement. The subpoena arrived at Trent's office on a Tuesday afternoon. Liam had arranged for a process server to deliver it during Apex's weekly team meeting. Maximum visibility, maximum panic. My former assistant, who was still sympathetic to me, texted me a photo. Trent's face was pale as he read the court summons. Fraud motion filed by Calla Morgan. Hearing scheduled. Defendant required to appear with all financial records pertaining to Apex Marketing Solutions. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Trent's number. I let it go to voicemail. He called 3 more times, finally left a message. Calla, what are you doing? We had an agreement. You were supposed to take the settlement and move on. This is crazy. You can't win this. Harper says it's nuisance litigation, that you're just bitter, but call me back. Let's settle this like adults before you embarrass yourself in court. I saved the voicemail, more evidence, then texted back, see you at the hearing. Harper called next. His voice had lost its smooth professional tone. Now he sounded irritated, rushed. Ms. Morgan, I strongly advise you to withdraw this motion. You're wasting the court's time and your money. The documentation clearly shows. That Trent forged my signature and you helped him. Yes, I know. Silence, then. Those are serious allegations. Defamation, actually. I could sue you for. For what? Telling the truth. I have recordings, Harper, of you, of your conspiracy, and I have victims willing to testify about your pattern of fraud. He hung up. Trent showed up at my apartment 2 days before the hearing. I watched him through the security camera, packing outside my door, running his hands through his hair. Finally, he knocked. I waited a full minute before opening the door, phone recording in my pocket. "We need to talk," he said, pushing past me into my apartment. "You have 5 minutes." He turned to face me, and for the first time in months, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Calla, please, don't do this. We can work something out. 50,000 wasn't fair, I see that now. What about 200, 300? Name your price." "My price is my company back." "Be reasonable. I've already signed contracts, made commitments. The buyer I mentioned. They're supposed to finalize the acquisition next month. $7 million, Calla. We can split it. $3.5 million each. You walk away rich, I get to complete the sale, everyone wins." "Who's the buyer?" He hesitated. "Sterling Capital Group. They're one of the largest investment firms in the region. This is huge, Calla, life-changing money. But the sale falls through if there's litigation. If you pursue this fraud claim, I lose everything. You should have thought about that before you stole from me." His expression hardened. "You won't win. Harper owns half the judges in this city. Your little lawyer with his cheap office, you think he can compete?" "Get out, Trent." After he left, I immediately sent the recording to Liam. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep, kept reviewing everything. The evidence, the timeline, the testimony. Liam had assured me we had a solid case, but Trent's words haunted me. Harper's connections, his resources. What if he really did have judges in his pocket? What if the entire system was rigged against me? At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop. Started writing. Not legal documents this time, but the whole story. Every detail, every betrayal, every piece of evidence. If tomorrow went badly, if somehow Harper and Trent won, I wanted the truth documented. Wanted people to know what happened. My phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. "Don't go tomorrow, you can't win. This is your last warning." I screenshot the text, sent it to Liam, and turned off my phone. Fear wouldn't stop me now. I'd come too far, lost too much. Tomorrow in that courtroom, the truth would finally have its day. Morning came gray and cold. I dressed carefully in my navy suit, the one I'd worn when closing our first major client. Armor for battle. Liam met me outside the courthouse, carrying 2 file boxes of evidence. "Ready?" he asked. "Let's finish this." We walked up the courthouse steps together, and froze. Harper Cole stood at the entrance, but not on Trent's side. He was waiting for us. "Ms. Morgan, Mr. Porter, we need to talk before the hearing." "Ms. Morgan, Mr. Porter, we need to talk before the hearing." Harper's voice was different, not smooth or condescending, almost nervous. "Can we speak privately?" Liam stepped between us. "Whatever you have to say can be said in the courtroom." "Please, 5 minutes, it's important." We followed him to a small conference room off the main hallway. Trent wasn't there. Through the window, I could see him in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, looking increasingly agitated. Harper closed the door and turned to face us. "I'm withdrawing as Mr. Harrison's counsel, effective immediately, and I'm prepared to testify on behalf of Ms. Morgan regarding the fraudulent transfer of assets." The words hung in the air like smoke. Liam recovered first. "What's your angle, Cole?" "No angle, self-preservation. The State Bar opened an investigation into my firm 3 days ago. Someone filed a complaint detailing a pattern of fraud conspiracy spanning nearly a decade. They have testimony from multiple victims, sealed settlements, everything. My license is on the line. My career, everything I've built." He looked at me. "I know you filed that complaint, Ms. Morgan, and you were right to do it. What Trent and I did, what I've been doing for years, it's inexcusable. I'm offering full cooperation in exchange for immunity from criminal prosecution." "You want to betray Trent to save yourself," I said. "Yes, I'm prepared to admit to falsifying documents under his instruction." The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, a judge's bench that seemed miles above the rest of us. Judge Patricia Whitmore entered, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "We have a motion for fraudulent asset transfer," she said, reviewing her notes. "Before we proceed, I understand there's been a change in representation." Harper stood. "Your Honor, I'm withdrawing as counsel for Mr. Harrison due to a conflict of interest. Additionally, I'd like to request a chambers meeting to discuss testimony relevant to this case." Trent jumped to his feet. "What? Harper, what are you doing?" "Sit down, Mr. Harrison," Judge Whitmore said sharply. "Mr. Cole, approach." The next 20 minutes were agony. Harper, Liam, and the judge disappeared into chambers while Trent paced the courtroom like a caged animal. He kept looking at me, his expression cycling between anger, confusion, and fear. Finally, he approached. "What did you do? What did you promise him?" "Nothing. I just told the truth." "The truth?" He laughed bitterly. "There is no truth, Calla. There's what you can prove and what you can't. And Harper had all the evidence. Without him, you had nothing. I had the original partnership contract, the fraud protection clause, and I had recordings of both of you admitting to conspiracy." His face went pale. "You recorded us. Every conversation, every threat, every admission. You thought I'd just give up and go away. You underestimated me." The chamber door opened. Harper took the stand. The bailiff swore him in. His hand shook slightly as he placed it on the Bible. Everything I'd been working toward, all the sleepless nights and desperate research, came down to this moment. Liam approached the witness stand. "Mr. Cole, please describe your relationship with Mr. Harrison." "I was his attorney, and his co-conspirator in defrauding Ms. Morgan." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Trent's face went red, then white. His temporary lawyer frantically took notes. "Please elaborate." "Mr. Harrison approached me 14 months ago with a plan. He wanted to force Ms. Morgan out of the company and claim full ownership. I advised him on how to do it legally, or rather, how to make it appear legal while actually committing fraud." "What did this advice entail?" "Creating a false document disguised as tax paperwork. Having Ms. Morgan sign it digitally without understanding what it actually was. Then using my position as their shared attorney to pressure her into accepting a minimal settlement while threatening her with legal liability if she fought back." "And you received compensation for this assistance?" "Yes. Mr. Harrison promised me 20% of the sale proceeds when he sold Apex Marketing Solutions to Sterling Capital Group. The sale was contingent on him having sole ownership. If Ms. Morgan retained any stake, Sterling wouldn't proceed." Liam pulled out documents. "Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence emails between Mr. Cole and Mr. Harrison detailing their conspiracy." For the next hour, Liam methodically presented every piece of evidence. The forged transfer documents, the recordings, emails, text messages, everything. When Liam called me to the stand, I felt strangely calm. This was my story to tell, my truth to share. I detailed everything. How Trent and I had built Apex together, how I'd trusted him completely. The day I discovered the empty accounts, the forged documents, Harper's threats, the pattern of victims I'd uncovered. Every word felt like releasing pressure from a wound. Trent's lawyer tried cross-examining me, but his heart wasn't in it. What could he say? We had recordings. We had Harper's testimony. We had documentary evidence of every crime. "Ms. Morgan, isn't it true you were difficult to work with? That Mr. Harrison had legitimate reasons to want you out of the partnership?" "If I was so difficult, he should have bought me out fairly, not stolen from me." "But you signed the transfer documents willingly." "I signed what I thought was tax paperwork. I trusted my partner and my lawyer. That trust was exploited deliberately to commit fraud." The judge interrupted. "Counselor, move on. This line of questioning isn't productive." When court recessed for lunch, I finally checked my phone. Dozens of messages. News had spread fast. Reporters were gathering outside. My former employees were texting support. And one message from an unknown number. "You won." I showed it to Liam. He smiled. "Not yet, but soon." The afternoon session was brutal for Trent. Liam presented financial records showing how he'd been systematically draining company accounts for months, paying himself excessive bonuses, using company funds for personal expenses. By 4 o'clock, Trent looked destroyed. Based on the evidence presented, particularly Section 12, Subsection C of the original partnership agreement, I'm ruling that the asset transfer was fraudulent and invalid. All holdings, accounts, and properties are hereby reverted to Ms. Calla Morgan as the original founding member of Apex Marketing Solutions. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Someone in the back actually cheered. Trent stood frozen, mouth open, face ashen. Furthermore, Judge Whitmore continued, I'm ordering a full forensic audit of all financial transactions related to Apex Marketing Solutions for the past 2 years. Mr. Harrison, you are required to cooperate fully. Any assets you've hidden or transferred will be recovered and returned to Ms. Morgan. Your Honor, Trent's lawyer stood shakily, my client would like to request. Your client will have an opportunity to respond to these findings. But given the overwhelming evidence of fraud, conspiracy, and financial misconduct, I'm also freezing all of Mr. Harrison's personal assets pending the audit's completion. He is not to sell, transfer, or hide any property, accounts, or valuables. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest. Trent finally found his voice. You can't do this. That's my money, my property. No, Mr. Harrison. It's Ms. Morgan's company that you stole, and now you're facing the consequences. Judge Whitmore's gaze was ice. I'm also referring this case to the district attorney's office for possible criminal prosecution. She turned to Harper. Mr. Cole, your cooperation has been noted. However, the state bar investigation will proceed. The gavel fell. The next morning, headlines blazed across business news sites. Attorney and business partner convicted of systematic fraud. Marketing executive wins company back after elaborate theft scheme. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Interview requests, congratulations from former colleagues, apologies from people who'd believed Trent's version of events. I ignored most of it. Instead, I drove to Apex's office building. My building now. Security recognized me, looked confused about whether to let me in. I showed them the court order. Their expressions changed from confusion to respect. The office looked different. Trent had redecorated, bringing in modern furniture that clashed with the original design. Photos of him with clients covered the walls where my achievement awards used to hang. Everything screamed his ego, his need to erase my presence. My former assistant, Riley, was at her desk. She looked up, saw me, and burst into tears. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I wanted to tell you what was happening, but Trent made us all sign NDAs. He said you'd quit voluntarily, that you were unstable. But I knew something was wrong. It's okay, Riley. You kept your job, that's what mattered. Are you back? Are you taking over again? I looked around the office. 5 years of my life had built this. My vision, my strategy, my relationships. Trent had just been along for the ride. Yes, I'm back, and we're going to rebuild this company the right way. 6 months after the court hearing, I stood in my office, the real one with my name on the door, looking at the wall where I'd hung a new plaque. Not an award or achievement, just a simple frame with words that meant everything. Section 12, Subsection C. In the event of fraudulent transfer of assets, all holdings revert to the original founding member. The clause that saved me. The protection I'd insisted on years ago when paranoia seemed excessive. That single sentence had been worth more than any legal defense, any high-priced attorney, any amount of money. Riley knocked on the door. Ms. Morgan, the team's ready for the rebranding meeting. Right, we were changing the company name. Apex Marketing Solutions had too much baggage now, too much association with Trent's fraud. We needed something new, something that represented what we'd become. In the conference room, 12 employees waited. Some had stayed through Trent's regime. Others were new hires I'd brought in. All of them looked at me with respect earned through survival, not demanded through ego. Thank you all for being here, I began. 6 months ago, this company was nearly destroyed by betrayal and fraud, but we survived. We rebuilt. And now we're going to do something Trent never understood. We're going to build something sustainable, ethical, and real. I pulled up the new logo on the screen, a phoenix rising from flames. The company name beneath it, Phoenix Strategies. We rise from what tried to destroy us. 1 year after walking out of the courthouse victorious, I received an invitation I never expected. The National Business Ethics Council wanted me to speak at their annual conference. Topic: Protecting Your Vision, Lessons from Corporate Betrayal. Standing backstage, waiting to go on, I felt nervous for the first time in months. Talking about fraud in legal settings was one thing. Sharing my story with thousands of business leaders was different, more vulnerable, more real. The moderator introduced me. She lost her company to fraud, fought back against overwhelming odds, and won. Please welcome Calla Morgan, founder of Phoenix Strategies. The applause was warm as I walked onto the stage. Bright lights, sea of faces, deep breath. A year ago, I trusted my business partner completely. We'd built something together. Shared victories, weathered challenges, planned for the future. That trust nearly destroyed me. Today, I want to talk about the difference between trust and naivety, between partnership and vulnerability, and how to protect yourself without becoming cynical. I told the whole story. The forged documents, Harper's conspiracy, the frozen accounts. But I also talked about what I'd learned, the importance of documentation, reading every contract personally, maintaining separate protections even in trusted relationships. Not because people are inherently bad, but because power and money change people in ways you can't predict. The fraud protection clause in my original partnership agreement seemed paranoid when I insisted on it. My partner joked about it, but that clause saved me, not because I expected betrayal, but because I prepared for the possibility. 18 months after the court victory, Phoenix Strategies had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. 23 employees, offices in 3 cities, annual revenue exceeding $5 million. We'd partnered with law firms across the country to provide resources for business owners facing fraud. The Phoenix Protection Initiative had helped over 400 entrepreneurs secure their ventures. But the most satisfying growth was internal. We'd built a culture based on transparency, mutual respect, and ethical success. No hidden agendas, no backstabbing, just people working together towards shared goals. Riley, who'd been with me since the beginning, was now our operations director. Liam had joined our board of advisors, and I'd hired 3 people whose businesses had been stolen by partners, giving them second chances to build something new. One morning, an email arrived that made me pause. Subject line, "Thank you," from Trent Harrison. My finger hovered over delete, but curiosity won. Calla, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm writing because my therapist suggested I take accountability for what I did. You were right. I destroyed myself. The fraud, the lies, the betrayal, none of it was worth what I lost. Not just the company, but my integrity, my reputation, my freedom. I spent 6 months in prison thinking about everything I threw away. The partnership we had was real. My greed corrupted it. I'm rebuilding my life now, working as a sales associate at a marketing firm. Starting at the bottom, learning humility. I don't expect a response. I just wanted you to know that you were right to fight. Justice mattered. And what you've built since, helping other people protect themselves, that's the legacy I wish I'd pursued. I hope Phoenix Strategies continues to thrive. I read it twice, felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no pity, just acknowledgement that he'd finally faced what he'd done. I didn't respond. Closure didn't require conversation. Sometimes it just meant accepting that the past was past and moving forward. That afternoon, I had a consultation with a new client. Young entrepreneur, 28 years old, starting her first business with a partner. She wanted to make sure her contracts were solid, her protections in place. I heard your story, she said. About what happened with your partner. I don't think my partner would ever betray me, but I want to be smart. Is that paranoid? I smiled, pulling out the contract templates we'd developed. It's not paranoia, it's wisdom. 2 years after Trent's betrayal, I sat in my office late one evening, reviewing Phoenix Strategy's annual report. The company had exceeded every goal. Our client retention rate was 94%. Employee satisfaction surveys showed unprecedented happiness and loyalty. The Phoenix Protection Initiative had helped over 1,000 business owners secure their ventures. My phone buzzed. Email from Vanessa Park, the woman who'd first warned me about Harper's pattern of fraud. She'd rebuilt her own business, a smaller but successful design firm. Her message was simple. Saw your TED Talk about business ethics. You've become what I hoped someone would be. Thank you for fighting when I couldn't. I opened my laptop and pulled up that TED Talk, recorded 3 months ago. Watched myself on stage, telling the story that had become my defining narrative. But this time, I noticed something different. I wasn't just talking about betrayal and recovery. I was talking about transformation. Trauma doesn't define us, my recorded self said. How we respond to trauma defines us. I could have accepted defeat, signed the NDA, walked away with $50,000 and a broken spirit. Instead, I chose to fight. Not because I knew I'd win, but because accepting injustice would have destroyed something more valuable than any company. My sense of self-worth, my belief that truth matters, my conviction that integrity is stronger than deception. The video had 3 million views, thousands of comments from people who'd faced similar betrayals, who'd felt powerless, who'd found strength in knowing they weren't alone. This was the real victory, not the court ruling, not getting my company back, not even Trent's prison sentence. The victory was showing people that fighting back was possible, that documentation and preparation could overcome even systematic fraud, that one person's courage could inspire thousands. I closed the laptop and looked around my office, the Phoenix logo on the wall, the fraud protection clause in its frame, photos of my team, my clients, the lives we'd rebuilt together. This was what survived betrayal, not bitterness or anger, purpose. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Ms. Morgan, this is Detective Williams with the Financial Crimes Unit. I'm calling because we've opened an investigation into corporate fraud cases in the region. Your case against Trent Harrison and Harper Cole has become a model for how we approach these crimes. I wondered if you'd be willing to consult on some ongoing investigations. Help us identify patterns, understand tactics. We could use someone with your expertise. I smiled. Another door opening, another opportunity to turn pain into purpose. I'd be happy to help, Detective. When would you like to meet? After the call ended, I walked to my office window. The city lights spread below like stars. Somewhere out there, other people were being betrayed right now. Partners stealing, lawyers conspiring, victims feeling powerless. But maybe, just maybe, some of them would hear my story, would document everything, would fight back, would refuse to accept injustice quietly. The envelope I'd expected Trent to send me, the one that would break me, had never arrived, because I'd written my own ending instead, not the ending he planned, the ending I chose. I'd started with nothing but a forged signature and empty accounts. I'd ended with a thriving company, a protection initiative helping thousands, and proof that truth, preparation, and courage could overcome even the most calculated betrayal. Some people build empires on lies, but the truth always finds its way into the courtroom. And when it does, justice doesn't just punish the guilty. It rebuilds what they tried to destroy. I gathered my things, turned off the lights, and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new clients, new opportunities to help people protect what they'd built. But tonight, I could rest knowing that the fight had been worth it. Not for revenge, not for victory, for proof that doing the right thing, even when it's terrifying, even when success seems impossible, still matters. The Phoenix had risen, and she was just getting started.